Hello everyone, welcome to Artistic Atom channel. I'm Fatima and today we will be discussing materials and their structure. So it is the continuation of the previous session and this is our session 4 where we'll be discussing the subtopic 2.4 which is nothing but the water cycle. So let's get started. Now, the learning objectives for this particular sessions are as follows. Understanding water cycle, and also we'll be understanding different scientific vocabs used in the process of water cycle. Now, the first question is, before going ahead and understanding all the steps involved, let us understand what is the meaning of this term water cycle. So, water cycle is nothing but the movement of water over the earth. So, on the earth, when this water goes up into the air, gets converted into clouds, and again comes back in the form of either snow or in the form of rain droplets. So, during this time, this whole water get recycled again and again. So this recycling system of water on the earth is called as water cycle. So let us understand different steps involved in the water cycle. Now the step 1 is water moves into the atmosphere. So well, when water moves into the atmosphere, how actually this process happens? Let us understand. So firstly, the sun heats the atmosphere. So as because of the heat of the sun, the temperature of the atmosphere increases. So as the temperature of the atmosphere increases, along with the atmosphere, the temperature of the water present in different water bodies also increases. So due to this increase in the temperature into different water bodies, it leads to the water molecules present in those systems to start gaining energy. So as they gain more and more energy, they start to move faster. As they move faster, they get converted from liquid to gaseous state, and this gaseous state is called as vapors. Since it is of water, we call it as what? Water vapor. So this process of conversion from liquid to vapor state is called as evaporation. So the first step is evaporation in water cycle. Now let us summarize everything. So what we have learned till now is in step 1, firstly, sun heats the atmosphere and also the different water bodies. So as these water bodies gets heated, the water inside it also gets heated, due to which the particles in water start to move faster and they gain energy. Due to this gained energy, they get converted from liquid to gaseous state, and this process is called as what? Evaporation. Now, other than these water bodies, there is one more source through which the water vapors enter into the atmosphere, that is the plants. So in case of plants, what happens is these plants, they consist of stomatas on their surface. So these stomatas are small openings. So whatever is the excess water inside these plants, it comes out through this stomata, and then due to the high temperature of the atmosphere, it gets evaporated. Now this whole process through which the water comes out of the plant and get evaporated is called as transpiration. So this is the another source through which the water vapors enter into the atmosphere. Now, the next step is water moves into the atmosphere. Now, let us understand what happens when water vapors enter into the atmosphere. So, as soon as this water vapor enters into the atmosphere, they rises. So, as they rises, they cool down and lose energy. Why they are losing energy and cooling down? Because as we go high in the atmosphere, the temperature decreases. So, due to decrease in the temperature, these water particles also lose energy. As they lose energy, they start to convert into their liquid state. So they form tiny liquid droplets. Okay. As soon as they form these liquid droplets, many such droplets come together and they form clouds. So let us understand this whole process through this illustration. So as we can see that these are the water vapors which were going high into the atmosphere. Now in the atmosphere, other than these water vapors, there are dust particles and smoke particles. So as soon as they come in contact with these, and also due to the low temperature of the high atmosphere, they start to accumulate and they get converted into small tiny water droplets. So as many of such water droplets, they come together, they form cloud. Hope you have understood what is the process through which these water vapors get converted into clouds. Now, this whole process through which these water vapors cools down, lose energy, convert it into liquid, and then form cloud, this whole process is called as condensation. Now, have you ever wondered what makes cloud move from one place to another? Because when I was a child, I used to think that these clouds they follow me. So, what is that invisible force which is actually pushing these clouds, or are they really following me? So, well, the answer for this particular question is this: that is, these clouds they move because of the air currents. So, as the air currents in the atmosphere pushes these clouds, they move from their existing position to the new one, and we feel like they're actually moving, but the reason behind is there is a force given by these air currents which is actually keep them moving. Hope you have understood the answer behind this particular question. Now, the third step is finally the waterfalls from the clouds. We have also experienced the same phenomenon, okay, when it rains. So, let us understand how actually it rains. So, once these water particles or start to accumulate inside a cloud, the cloud becomes heavier, okay. So, due to the water condensation, clouds become bigger and heavier. Now, there is a time comes where the cloud is not able to hold those water particles anymore. So as it loses the ability to hold those water particles, then these water droplets falls back, and we call this process as what, rain. So we have understood how actually these water molecules from the cloud they comes down on the earth, okay. Now, there is another case which happens when these clouds they undergo a very low temperature. So, suppose if there is a cloud which is formed in the atmosphere where the temperature is quite low. So, because of the colder temperature, what happens is these rain droplets they get converted into either snow, hail, or sleets. Due to this, they form hail, snow, or sleet instead of rain. Okay, so let us understand the difference between snow, hail, or sleet. So snow means when these water droplets freezes slowly and they form very tiny ice crystals. So that particular phenomenon of precipitation is called as what, snow. Okay, yes, we do use this term called as precipitation whenever it rains or it snow or hail or sleet in the environment. Okay, so precipitation is nothing but the accumulation of those particles, and when they form uh, water droplets or solid like that, so we call it as what, precipitation. Now the next term is sleet. So sleet means when these water droplets freezes partially when they are falling out of the cloud. Hail is when these water particles are falling when there is a thunderstorm or thunderstorm cloud, and when there is very strong upward wind. So this leads to the formation of hail. Hope you have understood the difference between three. Snow is when these water droplet freezes and forms very soft and fragile crystals, and sleet is when these water droplets freezes partially through very cold air, and hail is when these water particles form through a thunderstorm cloud, or and also when there is very strong upward winds. Okay, now, the next step is water collection, because as I discussed earlier, that water cycle is a continuous process. So this water has to get collected, and again it will go undergo the same process. So water collection happens by two ways onto the earth. First is surface water collection, and second one is the groundwater collection. So surface water collection is nothing but when the water is collected over the surface of the earth, and groundwater collection is when it goes underground. Okay, so now surface water collection can happen by three ways. Firstly, water get collected in open water bodies. What do you mean by the term open water bodies? They are nothing but the rivers, lakes, and oceans. Then the second way by which the water can get collected over the surface is by plants. So in case of plants, there can be two things that happens. So like suppose if the water is falling over the leaves, then next on the next day when it is quite sunny in the atmosphere, again the water get heated and it directly gets evaporated. But suppose if that water trickles down to the ground, so during that time what happens, it gets absorbed into the ground, and again through the roots it get absorbed by the plant, and again the transpiration process happens, and finally it gets evaporated. So these are the two ways by which plants can actually collect the water inside them. Now the next way is water flow over lands. Okay, so let us understand how actually this water which is actually flowing over the lands get collected. So this process is called as what? Surface runoff. So whenever the water is flowing over the land, we call it as what? Surface runoff. Now this can happen by two ways. Firstly, if the water is moving very slowly, then it is going to directly enter the water bodies like rivers, lakes, and oceans. And suppose if the water is flowing very heavily and there is heavy runoff, so during that time the soil which is there over the land, it also get carried out, due to which this soil along with the water enters the rivers and stream. Now since the water and also some kind of rocks or some other things also get carried away, due to which these heavy particles, they causes silts and blockage into that particular river or stream. So hope you have understood three ways by which the water is getting collected over the surface. Now let us understand how the water is getting collected underground. So when the water is soaked into soils and rocks, we call it as what? Groundwater. So during this groundwater, it can be grounded in two ways. Firstly, it can be stored in shallow soil, okay, and secondly, it can undergo deep soaking. So when it is undergoing deep soaking, it is actually refilling the ground stores. So wherever there are underground stores present, so this whole water is going to get enter over there, and it is going to refill that particular body. So hope you have understood the different steps involved in the water cycle. Now let us understand a special case. Now, the special case is when this water enters into a cold climate. So, how the collection is going to happen in that? So, well, as we know that whenever there is a cold atmosphere or the temperature is low, during that time, the water droplets, they start to get converted into either snow, ice, or glaciers, which is also called as the precipitation. So after this, what happens? They remain in the form of that snow, ice, or glaciers for a long period of time. But as soon as the summers come back, during that time, due to the presence of sun, the temperature of the atmosphere again starts to increase. So as it starts to increase, the ice which is present over there and has formed over time, it starts to melt. So this melted ice gets converted into what? Water, and again it starts to flow into soil. So while flowing through the soil, it almost find its overway, and after finding a way, it gets entered into rivers and oceans. So this is how again through the glaciers and ice and snow, again this water is entering into the same water bodies. So again the whole cycle is going to repeat itself. So this is how actually water cycle works. Hope you have understood all the steps involved and also the different vocabularies. With this, we have completed our session. Thank you for watching. See you in the next session. Do like and subscribe to my channel. If you have any specific topic that you want me to teach, do mention it in the comment section.